There we go. Okay. Good morning, everybody. We will get started here. Folks will hop on as they join in, but just letting everyone know that this is going to be recorded. But to introduce myself first, I'm Will Hagan with the Minnesota Retailers, and it's great to see everybody here for Sustainability Strategies for Retail Success webinar. If you're new to the Minnesota Retailers, we're a statewide collection of retailers and key business partners. From family-owned shops to national brands, we tell the story of Minnesota's retail industry to elected officials, the media, and the public, and we champion innovation in the industry as well. If you're interested in learning more about who we are and what we do, we'd love that. Please feel free to reach out at any time. I also want to give a warm welcome to our board chair, Dan from Hy-Vee, if you want to say some words, Dan.
Hey, thanks, Will. Good morning, everybody. I'm Dan Walter. I'm from Hy-Vee. I have the honor of serving as the board chair with Minnesota Retailers this year. And I want to just thank you all for taking part in this and for your interest in sustainability. I also want to give a shout out to the Minnesota Chamber and to the folks at WasteWise and Energy Smart, or Jessie, who's with us today, for their strong partnership and the work that they do to promote sustainability for businesses. You know, my day job at Hy-Vee, I'm a lobbyist up at the Capitol, so I'm often up there talking about a lot of issues, a lot of them often pertaining to sustainability and environmental issues that impact business. And I'm a firm believer that the best way we don't get challenging laws in that space is to do a good job in that space ourselves. And for Hy-Vee, that means an ambitious food waste recycling program. It means recycling the plastic bags that we use, and also EV chargers and a lot. So every business can address this issue in their own way. And I appreciate everybody's interest in this topic. And again, thank you for being with us this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Just to keep a couple quick housekeeping items before we get rolling today. Today's session, as I mentioned, is being recorded. We'll share that link with you so that you can pass that along or revisit it if you so desire. Feel free to use the chat as well during the session. I'll be monitoring that to drop in questions or comments. We will also leave some time at the end for Q&A. But since it's Earth Month and Earth Day is just around the corner in a few short weeks on April 22nd, there's no better time to talk about sustainability in retail. And we're not just talking about the environmental impact. We're also talking about clear business benefits of smart, sustainable strategies. That's why I'm excited to introduce today's speaker, as Dan mentioned, Jessie Hendrix, Outreach Coordinator for the WasteWise and Energy Smart programs at the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. Jessie connects Minnesota businesses with real-world, practical, sustainable services, and she's been doing incredible work since joining the Chamber in 2021. Before that, Jessie worked in environmental education and focused on helping people connect with the natural world around them, so she brings both experience and passion to this topic. Please join me in welcoming today's expert, Jessie Hendrix.
Thank you so much, Will. It's a great intro. Who wrote that? I'm going to share my screen here and dive right in to, as you both talked about, how sustainability, you know, it's not just a buzzword. And I know we have a lot going on right now, but April is really a great time to take a minute and think about what you're currently doing in terms of sustainability and where some areas for potential improvement might be. So my goal as we're talking today is to give you some very actionable examples of projects and initiatives that you can tackle, why they will benefit your business, what benefits you can expect to see, and then information on the resources and expertise and the grant funding that is out there to help you actually accomplish these projects. And I know while you're all in retail, that can look very different depending on your business. You might have one small location, or you might have a chain. You might have food service, you might only be focused on clothing. So these sustainability initiatives will look very different depending on what your operation is. So I want you to be thinking about how this pertains to you, your business, and how you might be able to adapt an idea to work better for you. And the word sustainability, it covers a lot. There's a lot that could fall under the ideas of sustainability initiatives. Today, I'm just focusing on our two areas of expertise, which is waste reduction and energy efficiency. But you could also think about water, pollinators, but don't get overwhelmed. This is definitely an area where the small steps matter, It's progress over perfection. You can't plan on being zero waste by next month. And I just really want to encourage you to pick somewhere and start there and see how that will impact your business. So yeah, please drop any questions you have as we're going along in the chat, and I will leave time at the end for our Q&A as well. But Energy Smart WasteWise, a little bit about us. We are part of the Minnesota WasteWise Foundation, which is part of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. Our goal is to work with businesses on improving their sustainability with the idea of helping them improve their economic vitality so they can be a really strong community member here in Minnesota. You do not have to be a member of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce to work with us, though of course you are more than happy to join us, and I would love to take any questions on that too. Just let me know. But first, we keep saying it's a good idea, but what are some examples of why is sustainability actually a smart strategy for your business? And the first one out there is, of course, cost savings. A sustainable business is generally operating efficiently and having lower costs. That's utility costs, that's waste costs. You know, the less energy you're using, the less energy you're having to pay for. You may not love looking at your trash bill, but you do receive one, you are paying for it, and you are taxed on the trash that you are sending to either the incinerator or the landfill. But you're not taxed on your recycling and organics recycling. So anything you can take out of the waste and send to be recycled instead, that's savings right there for you. These sustainability initiatives are also great for having a positive customer perception. More and more people these days, including your employees, are looking to be engaged with and work for businesses and brands that have sustainability initiatives and to be making progress on them. You can't just say it's something you care about. People also like to see that, oh yeah, they're making progress towards their goals. Customers, more and more these days, are looking for sustainability as a factor when they're out shopping. And how important that factor is really varies depending on who the person is. Like for me, it's one of my top factors. For most other people, honestly, cost is more of a factor, but it is a factor in there. And if you are working towards sustainability, you can set that up as being a factor for people when they're looking for where they want to shop and for what products they want to buy. If everything's equal, then they'll go for the more sustainable option when they're out shopping. So having those options there really sets you up as kind of a leader in that industry of having that sustainability initiative and having it be something that your employees and customers know you for. And then we've got the regulations. As Dan mentioned, you know, regulations, they can be a little bit unpredictable. And if you are already ahead of them, you don't have to worry about them as much when they do come down the line. There's the new extended producer responsibility law, which we still don't really know much about. More and more cities have green to go ordinances. If you serve prepared food from your retail operation, you want to be ahead of that. In terms of energy efficiency, the fluorescent lights were banned starting, the sale of fluorescent lights was banned starting last January, with tube lights being included this upcoming January. But if you already have LED lights, that's not a factor you need to worry about. So having these sustainability things being something you're already working towards can get you ahead of these regulations, and you won't have to panic when they do start to come your way. So keep these benefits in mind here as we start to talk about what are some things you can actually focus on, get your hands dirty in terms of waste reduction. We're going to start there. And we're going to start with recycling. So I will take a second to address that eternal elephant in the room. Does recycling work? And is it worth your time? And I will assure you that yes, here in Minnesota, and especially in the metro area, recycling does work very well. Recycling is an industry. It's not something they're doing just for fun. So due to Minnesota laws and due to the strong end market demands here we have for those recycled materials, you can be very confident that when you put a recyclable item in that blue bin, so a pop can or a plastic water bottle, that will go off to be sorted at the material sorting facility, the MRF, and it will show back up on the shelf. In terms of a pop can, in just a few short months, that metal will be back on the shelf as another can. So it is worth your time and your effort to improve the recycling in your retail operation. It's not just something you do for show. It is actually having an impact. And I mentioned those taxes, that you're being taxed on waste, but you are not taxed on recycling. So if you can take it out of your waste, put it in recycling, that is ideal, and you will be saving yourself some money there. So the first step you want to start with is improving what you already have. So that's making sure you have paired bins that are clearly labeled and ideally color-coded in the way that everyone knows. So black for trash, blue for recycling, and if you have organics recycling, green. People, it turns out, we're pretty lazy and we're not willing to walk across the room to recycle. So having a paired bin is having a trash can with a recycling bin next to it every single time, so that when it comes time for someone to make the choice of where they put something, they don't have to take an extra step. They can just drop it in the correct bin. Now, you might not need these bins out on your store floor. That might just lead to contamination from confused customers not knowing where an item is supposed to go, but you definitely want these back behind the counter or in your back rooms where your staff can have an understanding, where you can do some staff training about why you're making these changes, these upgrades, these improvements, and how they can participate and do it correctly. A lot of staff get very engaged in these. There tends to be lots of questions. So having regular reminders, if you have turnover, regular reminders to your staff about what goes where really increases your success rate and avoids contamination. And honestly, you might not have a lot of volume for recycling. Really depends on what your business is doing. But two streams we see frequently in the retail realm are cardboard and plastic film. Both are recyclable, but might need a little bit more extra attention. Cardboard, it can go in your regular single stream recycling with your paper and metal and glass, but you might just have too much of it and you're filling your recycling dumpster up every other day, which can get annoying and expensive. You can get specific dumpsters just for cardboard, and maybe you even need a cardboard compactor. This could be a good area to engage with your landlord. If you lease your space, your neighbors might also have an issue with excess cardboard, and you might be able to go in together on getting a cardboard recycling program started for your location. Plastic film is another great one for this. If you get your pallets and they come with plastic film, that is recyclable, but it cannot go into that single stream recycling. And when I say plastic film, I mean like plastic bags or anything that you can kind of shove your thumb through. So like not the cellophane plastic, but the type where, so not grape packages, for example, but plastic bags and cling film can be recycled. But you need a separate container for that. It's a separate route for recycling. So once again, you need a certain amount of volume. And working with your neighbors and your landlord could be a good opportunity for getting started with plastic film recycling. But when we're talking about reducing, do we think reduce, reuse, recycle? You know, we always say them in that order, and that's because that is the order of environmental preference. Ideally, we're reducing. We're not creating the waste in the first place. Second step then is reusing. Is there a way we can keep this product going a little bit longer? And then our third option actually is recycling or organics recycling. So let's talk for a second about what are some reuse and reduce strategies that might work for retail. And two opportunities would be maybe some big changes for your business, but might make sense if you could offer a take-back program to make recycling a product or reusing a product easier for your customer. For this example, I'm thinking of blue jeans. While blue jeans and textiles are recyclable, they can be a little bit trickier for consumers, and the transparency behind textile recycling can be murky. So if you have a good connection and a good outlet for recycling your product, offering that to your consumers with a small discount when they drop off their old and used product can be a great way to build loyalty. And repair programs are along that same line. If you sell a kind of long-term durable product, where just like maybe the zipper needs repairing or the computer needs an update, offering that repair service kind of in-house is also great for building brand and customer loyalty. People love when they can buy something once and then keep using it over and over again. In terms of reducing that, you can also get your customers involved by incentivizing them to not need a product in the first place. I'm sorry, not the product is the wrong word, not need the container in the first place. We want them to buy the product. But maybe they don't need a bag, or they've brought their own bag in. Just a 5-cent discount back on that. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it's kind of a mental thing for the consumer where they feel good about that. You can also incentivize any refill options you have, whether that's beverages, bulk food, if you have for bulk hygiene like shampoo. If people bring in their own containers, a small discount on that to thank them for thinking ahead and remembering their container also reduces the amount of plastic that is being used out there. All right, then we've got donation. This is a reuse option. You might end up with a lot of excess hangers, old hangers, or you have goods that are just slightly damaged, enough so that you can't really sell them, but they're not quite ready for the landfill. Finding a good donation outlet where you can have a regular relationship and send those items to them. There are a lot of nonprofits that will happily take slightly damaged furniture, home goods, clothing, and get them to people who really appreciate them and need them in their lives. And then finally, let's talk organics recycling. Really quickly, I'll just say that organics recycling is like commercial composting. So your backyard composting where you'll put banana peels and eggshells, that's fine. But commercial composting or organics recycling can take a lot more. There's a lot more variety they can accept because it's on a larger scale. So things like meat and dairy, stuff you would never put in your backyard compost because you don't want to host raccoons in your yard, is just fine for organics recycling because it gets a lot hotter and things will break down. Things that won't break down in your backyard, like bones, will break down in organics recycling. This is also good for paper products like paper towels, tissues, or if you have to-go containers that are BPI certified compostable, they can also go into organics recycling. So if you sell food products, this could be right for you, or if you have other organic materials like a florist, then setting up organics is another good place for you. Organics tends to be very heavy. So if you can take that out of your waste and put it into organics instead, that is a good cost savings on your waste bill. But if you find that you do have a lot of stuff that is perishing before you can use it, hitting that expiration date and you're having to throw it, there are a variety of inventory management systems out there that will help you track your ordering and what's being used and making sure that products are being sold and used before they expire. Just a specialized system that can help you track that, can help reduce what you even have to put in the organics recycling. And finally then, as retailers, you have the opportunity to pick who you're working with. You can select environmentally conscious suppliers. And this is a lot easier when you are working with local suppliers because you probably have a closer relationship with them. And here's a few examples of local suppliers we've worked with, and this really helps with reducing packaging. One is reusable pallet wrap. You can avoid the cling film altogether and the endless circles and get pallet wrap. They zip on or they Velcro on, depends on the model. And these make sense if you have very regular shipping routes back and forth where the pallet wraps can reliably be trusted to return back to where they started. Doesn't always make sense, but it might if you have a good relationship with your shipping and supplying. Other options would be, here we have Nicolette's Macaroons and Minnesota Dairy Lab. Instead of using single-use disposable items to ship their macaroons and their ice cream to their stores that are selling them, they've got these sturdy plastic cambros and sturdy plastic containers that get moved back and forth with each delivery. They're cleaned, they are food safe, and they are not being tossed in the trash every single time. So if that's something that would make sense for your business, if you have a regular bakery supply coming in, or regular ice cream supply, these could be things that you can look into. And if you are the supplier, take a second to think about your packaging and what you can do to make it more recyclable, more compostable, more reusable. Can the packaging be made of paper that is 30% recycled? It can be small changes, but they will add up to have an impact there as you continue to support that recycled paper industry and have more and more demand. And make sure if you do make any of those changes, make sure it is printed on a label so that your consumer knows that you took the time and the effort to design a label and packaging that is environmentally conscious. That makes a difference. I met a man last year who was working really hard to make bags, paper bags out of recycled paper, but nowhere did it say on the bag that this bag was 100% made of recycled paper. So people couldn't, it felt exactly like a normal paper bag. So people didn't understand why they were paying more for this bag. Why is this bag special in any way? So make sure it is clearly printed there and people understand what they're paying for. So if that was mind-boggling, there's a lot to consider. Hopefully you are eligible for WasteWise. WasteWise is one of the programs that I promote, and they work with businesses and nonprofits, including places of worship. So if you are also engaged in a nonprofit or attend a place of worship and think that they could benefit from recycling improvements, beginning organics, please feel free to get in touch as well. You need to be located in Anoka, Hennepin, Ramsey, Scott, or Washington County. Those are the counties we are currently contracted with. Or if you are a member of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce. The free services of WasteWise are available for you. Your sustainability specialist will schedule a time to meet with you, take about 30 to 60 minutes to discuss your goals, talk about your waste bills, address any concerns you have before walking through your property and looking for any opportunities. Like if you need another recycling bin there, if maybe you could use a cardboard perforator to reuse the cardboard that you have coming in to send out with what you're shipping out as a reusable packaging. Kind of instead of packing peanuts, you could use perforated cardboard. They'll provide you with those ideas. And the counties that we contract with all have funding available to support these projects. Here's a list of some common projects that we work with businesses on. This is definitely not an exhaustive list if you have other ideas. And the amounts of the grants vary depending on the county and the equipment. For example, in Hennepin County, it's up to $3,000 for bins and labels. But if you're in Ramsey and Washington County, it's up to $50,000 for innovative waste reduction projects. If you have an idea that will really reduce the amount of trash you are sending to the incinerator or the landfill, they have grant funding available for that. So get in touch. I can connect you with your sustainable contact for that county who has the most expertise on that grant and can provide you guidance on what makes the most sense for your business. Okay, we're going to jump away from waste reduction and recycling over to our other area of expertise, which is energy efficiency. And I've picked just a few areas to focus on here, things that are most common for retailers and tend to have the best kind of return on investment. And first, we have LED lights. This is really the low-hanging fruit of energy efficiency. If you haven't switched over to LED lights yet, I really encourage you to start looking into that today, because it will have a relatively fast return on investment. Pictured here is Driscoll's Downtown Market in Hopkins. They just completed their new LED light retrofit. You can see it looks bright and welcoming, and even better, they're going to be saving more than $9,000 a year now on their electric bill, and they're going to have this paid off in just over a year. So they're going to start seeing those savings very soon. LED lights, it's definitely a case of you get what you pay for. So please don't just go order these off the cheapest site you can find on Amazon. Work with a contractor. They can provide you the best guidance on what you need, how many you need. You might be too bright in some cases. So we see that more in offices where LED lights are suddenly too bright for a space. But you can get the warmth that you want, the tone that you want to really set the mood you're looking for in your store. This also includes any special displays that you have, and it's also a great opportunity to add sensors. You can add sensors easily during a retrofit, but you can also, if you already have LEDs, you can go back and add sensors after the fact. A few different types of sensors. We are all familiar with the occupancy sensor. We've all had it go off on us when we were in the bathroom. But they do make a lot of sense for quiet areas of your business, bathrooms, back hallways, storage closets, anywhere where the lights accidentally get left on for days and days. Occupancy sensors can solve that. You can also get dimmers. If you leave your store lights on overnight for safety concerns, that's fine, but they probably don't have to be on at 100% all night. If you set them on dimmers, you can set them down to 20, 30%, just provide a little bit of light. And then if the occupancy sensor is triggered, they can go up to 100%. And then we have photo sensors. And photo sensors detect daylight, so they are great for your exterior lights. Any lights you have on the outside of your building for security, as well as your parking lot lights. You do not need those on a bright sunny day, so having a photo sensor will make sure you're not wasting energy out in the parking lot. And LEDs are an area where most utilities have rebates available, so definitely make sure you check with your utility about rebates. And some even offer retroactive rebates. So if you've done an upgrade in the last 2 years and you're not sure if you got the rebate, there could still be time to check on that. So pull out those receipts, talk to your contractor, talk to your utility, and see if you still qualify and get your money back. All right, the other huge area then would be your HVAC system. It is always on. It is always heating. It is always cooling. It is always ventilating. So any efficiency updates here can have a large impact just because of the frequency of that system always being on. And the brain of that system is your thermostat, and it needs to be programmed. It needs to be programmed correctly for when people are actually in the building. So a programmable thermostat, it doesn't have to be fancy as long as it's programmable. If you have a small operation with just one thermostat, that's easy enough. If you have a larger store that's more complicated, you might want to look into smart thermostats, which are a lot easier to program. You can just do it over your computer or your phone. Or if even larger than that, you might need a building control system. But whatever you have, you want to make sure that it is programmed to set back your building temperature when no one is in the building. You can save up to 10% a year on your heating and cooling costs by setting back your thermostat 7 to 10 degrees for 8 hours. So as long as no one's in the store, you don't have stalkers all night long, you can really find some savings there by only heating and cooling the building when no one is actually there. In the winter, you don't want to go below 55 degrees for setting it back, just to keep your pipes and everything safe. But the setback is a good option for some real savings there. And your HVAC system itself, you might not think about it a lot. It's likely on your roof, those rooftop units. And depending on your situation, whether you own or you lease your space, make sure it's very clear on who is responsible for what with that HVAC system. Who is responsible for maintenance and who is responsible for replacement. Read your lease very carefully. Sometimes it's not clear, and make sure that maintenance is happening. And if you're responsible for replacement, make sure you are preparing for that replacement and don't get surprised here as AC season is eventually coming and you want to make sure that you're ready. You can have a contract with a maintenance company to replace filters, clean coils, check in on all the equipment, but make sure that is actually happening. Those rooftop systems, your furnace, your air conditioner, your boiler, they have a lifespan of about 20 years, and you can keep them operating as efficiently as possible if they are being maintained for that whole 20 years. All right, then we have refrigeration. This might pertain to you, it might not. You might just have a little drinks cooler by the checkout, or you might have a whole wall of refrigerators. But refrigeration uses a lot of electricity, and focusing on that for energy efficiency can have a lot of savings potential. So if you do have, walls of refrigerators, you're at a gas station, a convenience store, a grocery store, it would be worth looking into high efficiency motors and fans. They will be expensive upfront. The savings you'll find from having them operate efficiently in the long term will be more than worth it. Maintenance is also crucial, no matter how many refrigerators you have. Make sure you're checking the seals, make sure the gaskets are working, make sure you're cleaning the coils. This goes for your one at home too. Make sure the cat hair, dust, dog hair is off your coil so that your refrigerator doesn't have to work too hard to get through that layer of dirt to operate. And if you do have like a cheese display, for example, where everything's just open to the air for easy convenience for your customers to reach in, when no one is actually shopping, cover that up with a night cover. It's basically a thick insulated blanket that you just put over the display so that you're not cooling the store overnight when no one needs easy access to that display. I see that with like sushi displays sometimes, or cheese, as I mentioned, anything where it's just the cool air is venting out into your space. Refrigeration is also an area where there could be rebates available, so always check with your utility on that. And finally, we have doors and windows. This is often the place that retailers start with when they talk to us. The age of the building could be questionable. They might not own it, so they're concerned about insulation and the leaky doors and windows. Unfortunately, this is an area with not a great return on your investment, and there's not a lot of grant funding out there for these projects. So first up, I'll say, do not leave your front door open when you have your air conditioner on. I know retailers think that having the door open is very welcoming and invites customers in. As my dad would say, you're just paying to cool the outdoors. Instead, maybe consider like a sandwich board or a bright and welcoming sign that says open. Think of other ways you can welcome in customers without dumping your air conditioning into the great outdoors. We also come across window concerns pretty frequently with retailers. Windows are so important for that natural light in your industry, but sometimes that late afternoon sun starts coming in and the air conditioner has to work overtime because everyone is starting to bake and your cashiers have the sun glaring in their eyes. Window film is a very cost-effective solution to this, and it can be professionally applied so there won't be like bubbles. It can be tinted as much as you want. It can have invisible dots on it that only birds can see, so the birds stop running into your windows. I would really recommend looking into window film as a way to keep your costs down in the summer if your air conditioner is really spiking as the sun starts coming in the late afternoon, as an attractive solution to replacing all of your windows, which will be incredibly expensive. A few examples here of recent retailers Energy Smart has worked with, just these examples of these projects. Handyman Hardware out in St. Cloud. I mean, they're hardware guys. They knew what they were doing. They were putting in LED lights, but they were doing it one at a time as each light died. And that meant that when I visited, they had some yellow and some white lights on the ceiling. And with some grant funding, we were able to help them replace all of the lights at once with high quality LEDs. They're going to last them 2 to 3 times longer than a fluorescent or incandescent bulb would. And it just looks really nice when you visit the hardware store now. Corazon is a small gift shop on Lake Street. And when she went to turn on her heating for the winter, it wasn't working, and she discovered that it was actually venting gas. It was unsafe for her to use it. So she connected with Energy Smart, and we were able to do all of that heavy lifting for her because you have a lot going on and we do not expect you to be experts in HVAC. So we can connect you with contractors. We are vendor neutral, but we'll provide you with options for contractors, help you select models that make sense, connect you to all the grant funding you are eligible for, help you apply for that funding as much as we can on our end. And she was able to operate her business this winter warmly and safely. And then finally, we have a florist also on Lake Street, Gloria Yare, and her refrigerator actually caught fire. And we were able to help her with grant funding, help her pick out models that were Energy Star, not Energy Smart, Energy Star certified, so as efficient as possible. And her florist business can keep operating and not catch on fire. So I give you a little idea there of what Energy Smart can do for businesses. And for eligibility for Energy Smart, it's only businesses, not nonprofits in this case. If you do have an interested nonprofit, let me know. I can connect you to another nonprofit that works with nonprofits on energy efficiency. And we work with businesses that use either Excel Energy or CenterPoint Energy. It's an and/or, it doesn't have to be both. That's who we're contracted with currently to work with, or with chamber members across the state, no matter your utility. Very similar to WasteWise, involves a visit to your site, looking at your utility bills, hearing any goals or concerns you have before walking around the space and looking for opportunities. Your specialist will follow up with a report, and that will include information on all the rebates and grant funding that you are eligible for. And rebates is always the place you want to start. These vary depending on where you are located. I am most familiar with the Excel and CenterPoint ones. Most do offer rebates for lighting. And I mentioned some have retroactive opportunities. So if you've installed anything in the last 2 years, definitely worth checking in. CenterPoint, though, is up to the end of the year. So we only have from January 1st to now for retroactive for CenterPoint right now. So make sure you're hitting those deadlines and paying attention. I do want to call out on this list here, garage door hinges. If you have a heated or cooled warehouse space where your garage doors have hinges, and if you stand next to that door and you can see daylight through your garage door or feel a breeze, green hinges, also known as spring-loaded hinges, are a really great, very affordable option. You can even DIY this yourself if you have a ladder and a drill. These hinges, they pull everything together so that all those gaps vanish. And it makes a huge difference removing those cold drafts from your heated building. And CenterPoint does have rebates for those too. So even if that's not available in your area though, I would still recommend looking into those. And then we offer a grant, the Business Energy Efficiency Grant, and this is up to $5,000 based on the rebate that you receive from your utility. And I know $5,000 is not going to pay for your new furnace. This grant is designed to cover that incremental gap between a standard efficiency furnace that you need to install anyway because your old one is dead with a high efficiency furnace. This is big equipment, it's expensive, but we always encourage businesses to install the highest efficiency model that they can afford. This equipment lasts 20 years. If you can find rebate funding, grant funding to afford that high efficiency model, you will benefit from those savings then for the next 20 years. So try to think long-term when it comes to that big equipment and install the high efficiency model. And this grant is to help cover that gap. Now, if you're thinking really big and you're doing a retrofit or remodel, opening a new location, and you want it to be as sustainable as possible, then MinPace is a great funding option. This is managed by the St. Paul Port Authority, and it is cash positive, meaning you pay nothing upfront, and the payments are rolled into your property taxes. So twice a year, those payments will be added to your property taxes, and those payments never exceed the savings that you're getting from your sustainability upgrades. You do need to own your space for MinPace, since that payment is part of the property taxes and not yours personally. If you have a smaller project in mind and you lease your space, then Trillion BTU, also through the St. Paul Port Authority, is a good option. It is a low interest loan program designed for people doing energy efficiency upgrades. With the Port Authority, you do not need to be in St. Paul for that. That's just the people managing those funds. Depending on where you're located then, there are a variety of cities that offer grants for energy efficiency. Minneapolis, St. Louis Park, Richfield, just to name a few. So if you are located there or if you have a location there, check in with your city. They are always thrilled to have businesses participating in their grant programs. They will often add you the websites and let the community know about the sustainability upgrades that you were making. So with that, I'm going to start to wrap it up here with kind of like what should be your takeaways here. And first is just pick one area to start. Don't try and do it all at once. I know you have a lot going on right now, a lot to worry about. But April, good time to pick one area to start, whether it is your overflowing recycling dumpster with stacks of cardboard everywhere, or if you're worried that your rooftop unit is 23 years old and it might not start cooling this summer, pick one area to start and focus there. If you are eligible for WasteWise or Energy Smart, I really encourage you to connect with us. We'll try and make this whole thing as easy as possible for you and make sure you get all those funding opportunities covered. If you're not eligible, I'm sorry. We're still happy to answer questions, so feel free to still get in touch. But it's also good to talk to your utility, call them about your bill, ask what you're being charged for, see what rebates and programs they offer around energy efficiency or building design. If it's for your waste, talk to your hauler. If you're getting charged for contamination, talk to them about why, or if you need to change the frequency of your pickups. Your city and your county are also good for both energy efficiency and waste reduction. They might have programs in those areas and resources and experts that can support you. And when you do start making all these changes, that's great. Make sure you're not doing it in silence. If you're making a change on your rooftop, people are going to notice the crane, but they're not going to know why. So make sure you're telling people about your new rooftop unit. Celebrate that you're replacing your 23-year-old 80% efficient air conditioner with a new 96% efficient air conditioner, and it's going to be saving X amount of kilowatt hours. Tell people in whatever way makes sense for your business. If you have a social media account, if you have regular staff meetings, make sure you highlight the sustainability changes you're making there. If you send out emails, if you're doing a special campaign for April for Sustainability Month, mention it there. I do encourage you to avoid greenwashing. Greenwashing is when sustainability is used in marketing, but the company's not actually doing quite what they're saying they're doing. An example we see this in a lot is like paper plates that are claiming that they're compostable. So to actually be compostable in organics recycling, it needs to say BPI certified compostable. That's what counts these days as being officially compostable. But companies will use words like eco-friendly, green, biodegradable, all which really have no accountability behind them, and they don't mean much in terms of sustainability. They cannot go to the organics recycling site. So make sure you have the actual data to back up the work that you're doing, and make sure you're really bragging both to your customers and to your employees about what you're doing. I mentioned before, employees can get very engaged. They're a great place to talk about this because they might have ideas for easy areas to start. We work with a variety of businesses that don't have access to organics recycle for whatever reason, but the employees care so much, they'll collect it up and then they'll take turns taking it home. Like there might be a lot more engagement in this area than you are expecting. So try to get everyone engaged in that and let them know what you're up to. All right, finally, here is my contact information. And I just want you to leave with the reminder that sustainability, not just a buzzword, but it is a smart business strategy. And while you can start with some really small intentional changes, it can be part of really thinking big as part of your overall strategy, because those changes can lead to significant cost savings over time. They can be great for customer loyalty. And they can really help you streamline and make your overall operation more efficient. So whether today you're inspired to look into waste reduction, upgrading some equipment, rethinking your packaging, each of those steps can have a major impact over time. But don't get overwhelmed. Just pick one area to start, what makes the most sense for your business, and always take advantage of the resources that are out there, the grants, the expert guidance, who can make this as easy as possible. So thank you so much for joining me today. Love to take any questions you have now, or please feel free to follow up with my phone or email here. And I can't wait to hear what your businesses are working on.
Awesome.
Any
Thank you
questions?
so much, Jessie.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Any other questions folks have? Well, seeing none, if anybody has any questions, you have Jessie's information, you have our information as well, and we're happy to connect you to Jessie, or to get you to the folks that can answer your questions. So thank you again, Jessie, for sharing with today your insights, all those options and opportunities. I really appreciate your time and everyone's time that joined today. Happy to continue the conversation with Jessie, so feel free to connect with her. And of course, if there's anything we can do at Minnesota Retailers to help support you on your sustainability journey, just reach out to us. Before we sign off, just wanted to make sure everybody can stay up to date with everything happening at Minnesota Retailers. We invite you to join our weekly email list at www.mnretail.org to receive our Retail Beat newsletter. Thanks again. Have a great Friday and enjoy the rest of Earth Month.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.